We're gonna go ahead and get started. I think the first question I want to ask each of you is, what made you get into this type of advocacy, or where did the desire and motivation behind protecting water as a public trust resource, or in the different industries or fields that you're in?
Who's going first?
Not me. Kupuna first.
That's for white.
I don't want to wait here.
Honestly, I never know nothing about. I can't even say the word. How you said it? Advocacy. I didn't know nothing about that. I don't know. We was raised ocean. We was raised up the mountain, up to our patch. My auntie mommy said back there, we used to all go up to our patch when we was young, and then come down, and just remember just doing these things, and then it wasn't there anymore. And because we was young, we never really understand what was going on. And it took about maybe 30 plus years to get old and understand and say, wow, wait, we used to have these things. Where's they now? And how come we cannot do them anymore? And Archie can agree with me. It's like when we started on this path, it was for a selfish reason of trying to reopen out our practice. We never care about anything else. We only wanted for race thorough again. And the water wasn't there. And so that first initial group that we had to do battle with, which was ironic, was Kamehameha schools. They owned the land. They leased it out to the plantation. The plantation diverted the waters. So it was strange that a Hawaiian entity was part of the issue. And so, yeah, we had it out with them first. And then over the years, we started growing and getting smarter. We never really understand too much of how to start on this path, but over time you figure it out. But what we realized was when we first was able to put water back in Kahoma, and Archie can tell you this, is like water never come back right away. It took years. Saturation had to happen of these stream beds in order for happening. You hear me talking on the video when we're talking about the supercharger of our aquifers being the stream. When we let go that water, almost 100% of that water from up at the intake, it took how many years, Archie?
Took 4 years.
4 years, and that wasn't good water. Was kind of a little bit grayish, uglish kind of water, and it took a lot longer in order to get that clear water to come back. So that's saturation. That's water that's heading back into aquifers. They're going to refill aquifers so we can drink. When I was at UH, we got to go to the Halawa aquifer, and we got to go down into the tunnel, down to the bottom. And if you look at Halawa, the mountain's not too high. It's not like our West Maui Mountain. It's usually like twice in height. And while we was down there, we got to see the water coming out of rocks and whatnot. It was kind of a trip. But he was saying, when this rain on that mountain fall, it takes 30 years to get to the groundwater. And we at Halawa, which is only half the height of West Maui Mountains. So if you do the math, we're looking at probably 60 years before this rain that fall today, we get to drink them. And I'm gonna drink them because I'm gonna still be here in 60 years. Right? But yeah, that's kind of like how it all started. For me.
Good analogy, Kai.
Aloha, everyone. First, I just want to say mahalo to everyone for coming. And it's very humbling to be here in front of you guys. And I wanted to thank you and your team for allowing education to happen. Everything that you guys are doing, it's not easy. It's hard work, and I understand that. I wanted to reflect what Kai was saying. 12 years ago, we were asked to go fight for the water in Kahoma Stream. This stream in Kahoma was dry for 130 years. 130 years. And the reason why it was dry was because they diverted the water to supply water to the hydro plant, which provided electricity to the mill. So Kahoma Stream was dry for 130 years. When I got the call to be part of this group, it was Kai, Kapali, myself, to go fight for the water. In that phone conversation, I said, oh no, I cannot do that. Because in my mind, it was about sacrifice. It was about the possibility of losing my family to fight for this water, because that's how dedicated you need to be. And I saw many people in many challenges fighting for Hawaiian rights or whatever, they lose their family. And I wasn't willing to do that. And when I hung up the phone, my wife said, who are you talking to? And I said, oh, I was talking to Kamehameha schools, and they wanted me to go fight for the water. And I told them, oh, no, I don't do that kind of stuff. And she told me, you need to go fight for that water. Kai, Kapali, and myself sat with Kamehameha schools, but at the time, the water was leased to Peter Martin. The water was leased to Peter Martin. Their hope was to keep that dam full, keep that diversion full so that they could develop homes. In that meeting, there was a gentleman that was working for them, I'm not gonna say his name, and I told him in front of everybody, don't lie, you tell the truth. He put his head down and he said, Uncle's right. And I said, I'm not gonna be able to be in the rest of this meeting because I have to catch a plane. When I got to the airport, Kamehameha Schools was there, and I said, oh, what happened? I thought you guys were gonna go look at the water. And they said, we heard enough. What Kai's talking about, I watched that stream every single day for 365 days. It was gray water, hot water, and it would run and it would disappear in Kahoma and pop up 100 yards down the stream. Then one day, the water was gray, the water was cold. Then one day, the water was gray and cold, and the entire stream flew. It didn't disappear, it was the whole stream. One day, the water was clear and cold. I got chicken skin right now. And one day, I saw the first o'opu. Kai and I would have these conversations about the things that we saw, talking to Kanoe Stewart, getting them involved, and really, we started paying attention. We started becoming stewards of that stream. Today, I can tell you, the aquifers within this area are 100% healthy. But more importantly, on a global scale, the earth is a living, breathing thing. The earth is a living, breathing thing. We live on an island. But one time, every stream flowed from the mountain to the sea. When we cut that stream off, it's like cutting the vein in your arm. What happens when we cut that flow of blood in your arm? The rest of that part of your body dies. That's what's happening to Hawaii, because you're cutting the streams. But Kahoma Stream, not only we saw the aquifers being filled, but one day I had somebody come up to me and say, oh, Archie, get o'opu, where the stream meets the ocean. And then Kai tells me, oh, my dad, he was all worried. He thought I was going to get an earthquake or something because he's seen spawning fish that he never seen, but his dad told him about. We dive. I dive out there once a month. What I saw was even greater, was the reef down at Mala. I'm not talking about where the pier collapsed. I'm talking about right outside of the jetty. The The reef is vibrant, alive, and the colors just in that one area. This has been a lesson, a life lesson till today. We learn more and more about how important it is to be connected from Mauka to Makai, and how we recreate balance. Because you know what? Lahaina was lost long before the fire. Because you know why? When I tell the kids, hey, what is the name of this place? What is this river? You know what they do, the kids in Lahaina? They go like this. Oh, I don't know. But you know the kids in Hana, when you ask them about one place, they know the name, they know why the thing was given that name, they know the ahupuaʻa. Guys like Kai, guys like the old timers in this town, they have that knowledge. But the kids today, they don't have that knowledge. We have to reintroduce this to them. We're all trying to relearn all over again, and how important it is to make sure that we're connected to community. That's why I do this. Because I understand the importance for the next 7 generations. Because this generation, this young generation, they don't know yet. But it's up to us to teach them. And it's up to us to reacquaint ourselves with what once was. Thank you.
Aloha mai kākou. Kaulu Luʻuwai. I am not from Lahaina, full disclosure. My ohana is from Makena and Kipahulu, but I was born and raised up country, and I'm so honored to be on the panel with. I joked they're kupuna, but they really are like idols to me, and I think they're part of the reason why I got into this work. My ohana is heavily involved in the Kaho'olawe and the Protect Kaho'olawe ohana, so I always had a sense of an understanding of how larger powers have a role in how Hawaii and our resources are managed, and how that affects our people and the health of our people. And then when I went to college at Manoa, my friends asked me, "You want to go to the legislature and go hand out flyers to politicians and ask them to give back the water in East Maui?" I said, "Sure, yeah, let's go do it." And then having so many politicians not even accept the flyer, not even want to hear you talk about why it's important to have streams flowing and the impacts of plantation diversion on kalo farmers, I think it hurt me in a way that made me angry. And then I went to law school, and then I gained skills and knowledge about water law and just the tools to make a change in the way I thought I could and contribute. And then fast forward, I had the honor of working with these folks, and now I work for Kahuliao. It's the Center for Excellence in Native Hawaiian Law at the law school at Manoa, and our primary job is to just support the rural Native Hawaiian communities. And right now we focus on water rights and access to water, especially for kalo farmers. And so we get to work with the beautiful community of Maui Komohana and the community members out here who are fighting for their water rights. So we help to support them in whatever capacity we can, whether it's legal or other. And yeah, I think what is it? Keith Keahi said it shouldn't be a crime to be Hawaiian. And so for me, as I saw, this is my way to make sure that it isn't a crime and people aren't punished. And not only do we get to just live in Hawaii as Hawaiians, but thrive. I think that's the most important thing. And so that's why I do this work, so that our communities can thrive in Hawaii as our kupuna did.
Yeah, thank you very much for all of your answers. You're all role models to me. The next question I want to ask is, since Uncle Archie, especially you're talking about education and future generations, is how do people who don't know anything, like myself, for example, not involved at all, but seeing that there is a rising need to get activated and get involved, but maybe you're disconnected from your culture, you never grew up as a kalo farmer, never have access to that kind, or maybe you're not even Hawaiian. So how do you get involved and get activated and support the kalo farmers and the traditional users, and in doing so also, supporting the ecological environment and the health of our place. And anybody can answer.
I think just like you said, was just get involved. Just get involved. I think there's a lot of things that are happening that you guys can do community work days. You guys can go to places that most people have never visited, whether it's up in Kaulu or Kahoma. People are starving for help to help them make sure they can perpetuate that place. And what that brings is that brings awareness, it brings education, and a better understanding of place. And I'm just going to give you an example. So right now we have a program, and what I was talking about the kids not knowing. So now we run a 3-day program, Mauka to Makai, and they have to write reflections. They learn and get to see and do things that they've never done. The hope that what spawns from this is you cannot protect what you don't know. But whose fault is that? So our job is to get them to know. When you know, you're not really fighting, you're standing up. You're standing up because you know. And that's happened far too long to us where we're in this situation. So for me, it's all about getting involved, getting educated. I remember when we first opened up our Kuleana lands up in Kahoma. I'm not a terra farmer. And I was criticized. Oh, Archie, you're not a terra farmer, you're a waterman. But I said, I know how to work hard. And I'm going to dedicate myself to working hard to protect the stream. And I'm still learning. I still ask for help. But you know what? We're doing it. And that is a start. Just do it.
Kaulu got angry, went to law school. I just made him through school. I guess I say this a lot when like I did plenty panel discussions on Oahu and stuff like that. And sometimes I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I think it has to be said. But like for me, it's like sometimes you gotta scar the hearts of the people who don't have, who never had that experience. And I kind of like it to like you look at like, oh, this guy, he get the flu, he jam out. Oh, look, this guy, he get the flu, he jam out. But you don't do nothing yet. Until you get the flu, all of a sudden you're looking at every single Google thing you can find how to not get rid of the flu. It's not until something happened to you that you try to go do something. And it's okay, but sometimes too late, yeah? You're already sick. You could have done things better. So I think it's like, I come from the old school, like, what my father taught us, no more teaching. Yeah, it's my father. I built houses, I learned from him, fishing, diving, everything. And if you ask him, he never teach us nothing. We have to pay attention, observe, because when you struggle with trying to figure out how this thing works, you remember a lot more when it's a struggle, especially if you feel the pain. And so, for a lot of these kids, they never went through that. They never feel the pain. So, which is, I'm the bad guy. I gotta enter a little bit of that pain into their heart so they understand that when it presents itself, you know how to react and you gonna care. And so I say, I gotta scar their heart sometimes. Also, when we was going through this whole battle, I was looking at behind, I was like, oh man, who's the next generation can come up and, take our place and move along? And I wasn't really seeing too much. And then I had my nephew, Pele Boy. He was young and he should take him with me to meetings and all kind of stuff like that. He brilliant. The guy, you talk to him, man, you gotta open up a dictionary sometimes and say, okay, what he said? But And it's funny because he's in his 30s now, but because I remember him as a small kid, I still call him a young boy, but he ain't a young boy anymore. And so we need leaders who younger that gonna come up and take the fight, and what we offer to them is the inheritance of the battle, the heartache, the pain of having to fight where we left off, and we give them to you now. That's not the kind of inheritance you want to give your kids, but that's what we offer to them. Even though then we exist being you, we can be Hawaiian by blood and stuff like that, whatever. But if we're going to just not care anymore, then more better we don't stay then. More better we just leave this planet. Because, I mean, with him now and how he grew up over the years, and how Paele evolved and becoming this person that now I look up to. I was worried about if we was going to have people like D, Blake, Paele, all Lāhainā strong folks, hey, they're coming up. And this is what us guys as maybe the old timers got to recognize, is that we got to allow them to come up, and we got to help them come up, and get on a point where we won't have to pull back and give them the reins. And when we pull back, we got to be comfortable with giving them the reins. Some people get addicted to the authority and to, I did this. Yeah? Go, do that all your life. If nobody coming from behind to take up what you did, they're going to forget what you did. So what if you did that? And that's my new, it's about water and fighting and restoration and stuff like that. And now I'm realizing, like, that's not enough. Yeah, a lot more to this than just tarot. Yeah. What Archie was talking about when my father was diving in front of Mala, and this is after the water was restored. And I say this a lot, but we think of the sliding scale and what each consecutive generation see their environment as they grew up as normal. Although my environment when I grew up in my time is not the same as my father's and my grandfather's. They was able to see a lot more in our environment than I did. And so we get stuck thinking, that's normal. That's not normal. So you gotta listen to the stories. What had before? How was supposed to be? And every consecutive generation, it was actually getting worse, but we're saying it's normal. Until when we finally got these waters back and we saw the changes in the environment. 130 years, Opu never lived in that stream. We never put them back here, Archie. We never put the fish back in the stream. We never know. We had to learn from Kanoe folks and Skippy folks how this Opu work. We never know that they go out into the ocean when they're babies, and as soon as they're ready and they sniff the first scent of fresh water, they're heading down. Kind of like salmon, but salmon go same river, Opu go any kind of place. Yeah? And so, in Kahoma, from having nothing, we get all 5 species. We never have nothing to do with that other than just letting the water go. So if you give nature the chance, nature rebound. And I remember just Momoa, my twin. He was.
I can see it.
I remember him saying I think it was at the UN. He said, "You know that the planet Earth, void of humans, would be a lot of healthier place than if we were here. We the actual scourge of the earth, guys. But we can live with nature. It was done before, and so we gotta return to that. And so when my father went diving, he seen this fish. It's called the Inenui. Never used to be in Mala before, and had a big school in Inui over there. And I said, yeah, I see him too. And he said, something wrong. He thought the world was going to end because this fish not supposed to be there, but wasn't there in his time. So I asked him, well, what about Papa folks? What they said? And he had to think. Then he realized, oh yeah, I had stories of them catching Inenui. But that was a way back when, so I was like, okay, so the freshwater had something to do with bringing these fish that love that freshwater, saltwater mix. A lot of it silver fishes mostly. And so now my boy, he's all into diving. And so what he see, Mala, where we grew up, we seen the decline. He see this. the sliding scale and flip on his head and going in the opposite direction. Because we have to get out of the way. And now, when we go there, we take Inui when we like, right? So that's what happens. We're not just talking about water just for our own selfish self, but if you look at our environment around us, everything is getting better. But they get forces that still want to control these waters and pull it back and take it into different places. And when we was talking about these protections that was removed by the governor based on the letters that came from West Maui Land Company, he took that as the truth and he spread that across the world. At that time, remember, Lahaina had every news channel there talking to people, and so that narrative that went out, when you see that Charlie Kirk video that we was the Pilau guys. I don't care what side of the politics you stand on. Pilau is Pilau. And when he said that about us, what does he know about our situation, where we're from, and what happened here? You don't have the right to talk. So he said that about us. That came from the narrative that the governor put out there. So it's our job to say, how the hell are we going to control his narrative? Because I was telling somebody earlier, our voice only carry as far as this room, and after that, bow. But with the folks, and what they can do with media, all of a sudden, our voice extend across oceans. To one day we were staying at the airport, going to the Big Island, and this lady from the UK goes, "I know you. I seen you on videos." I was like, "Huh?"
Hard to miss.
The UK, where's that? That's just by Mars. That's far. And she said, "We know everything." She said, "We came here for vacation. We saw the videos. We never come. We want to forgive you guys space." But the vacation rentals refused to refund the $25,000 that they put on the house. So they was going to lose them. So what they did was, we slept in Lahaina, but we vacationed on the other side of the island. So they came with respect because of what we was able to do. And that narrative went changed worldwide. You know, for all the years that we've been fighting, you got to hear the worst of the worst. They call you all kinds of stuff. You gotta get thick skin, because at first you like fight that, but next you know, you see the police car go in jail. They have to learn how to communicate, how to educate ourselves and be able to beat them in their own game. And there was not one battle we lost, no? We won every single one. So what they revert to is trying to ignore you, then try to badger you with insults to take you back to the places. Everybody like being on warrior. Good fun. That's the good fun part, right? But we was like, oh, we're not stupid. Like my brother said, we're not stupid. We're not born Lele. We know how to approach this. And so, not to say you like go home and chew on rocks. after you know, you keep your calm, you go home, you grab one rock, you start chewing on them because you gotta let out some stress. But yeah, that's where we at. That's what we gotta do. We're gonna hand them over to the lawyer.
I am not an expert. They are the experts, and as you heard, they have endured so much so that I can sit here and not to say that I don't fight in certain ways, but I think I have it so much easier because they have done a lot of the fighting to the point where people actually pay attention and politicians and the system is changing. But for people who are just getting involved, yeah, and just learning about this, I always look to the quote from George Helm is, "Do your homework." Uncle Kai said, you know, they had to educate themselves, and the first thing you want to do is know what you're talking about, because if you speak and you don't know what you're talking about, you actually set back all the work that they have done to educate other people. And so when you speak without the right information and not from the right position, you can actually do more harm than good, even if your intent is good. So the number one advice I'd give to people is to do your homework and educate yourself on the issues that are happening and pay attention to the people who already know and just what they're talking about, where they are, what they're doing. Pay attention to how they act and how they conduct themselves, you know. if you're new to this, the last thing you want to do is go step up into a meeting like this and talk, and then you don't know what you're talking about, and then everyone's like, who are you? You know, that's not the stuff. You know, you gotta come correct, check yourself, and just do your homework, and then yeah, see, I think that another one, you know, Auntie Lalani Kanakaole, the Renaissance Hawaiian Renaissance tita, she has this like tenet of life of like one of the a quote from her is that everything in Hawaiian culture in our worldview has an order too, and so you know like even in our traditional system we had ali'i, we had maka'ainana, but the ali'i couldn't function without the maka'ainana, and if you weren't a good ali'i, the maka'ainana could leave and go find another ali'i and find other land to cultivate, and then you're no longer an ali'i because you have no resources, and so there is an order in how things work. And so I think for everyone, it's to find what your skills are and what you have to offer, and find your role in this movement. Not everyone's gonna be an Uncle Kai. Not everyone's gonna be Uncle Archie. You know, you need people like DeAndre to film. You need people who are feeding our community so that everybody can sit here fed and pay attention and educate themselves. You know, everybody has a place, and so it's about finding what you can offer and find your role and then fall in line so that we can all move forward together as a community, as a stronger Lahui when everybody knows their place.
So I have a lot of questions, but I want to move forward to the part where you guys can ask the panelists questions. So I'm going to just jump forward a little bit to some of the more juicy stuff. As we know, recently, Maui County had acquired some of Maui Land and Pine's water systems, and you know we're kind of flipping the script on how much of the water resources are publicly managed. Do you guys see this as a good step in the right direction? What does this mean for our community, and what are the true paths towards, you know, making sure that this is truly what our community needs and is good for our future sustainability?
I don't know if I'll answer. I'll just clarify. They haven't acquired it just yet. They've only entered into a MOU or memorandum of understanding to begin to have discussions and negotiations about all the details, because it would be a huge contract, right? You're talking about plantation infrastructure that has millions of dollars for updates and maintenance and stuff, and so you have a lot of things that have to get worked out. So they're only entering into discussions. Yeah, it's not a signed sealed deal just yet. And I think that is good because it provides opportunity for people to weigh in. First of all, they should make the MOU public so that people can see what is actually included and be transparent about that. But I'll let other people answer first, because I'm actually not, again, from Lahaina, so I don't know what is best for. I would say the first thing the county should do, though, is go talk to the people at Ponokoha'o who actually are impacted every day by the diversions and what would happen if the county took over. So that's just my initial mana'o.
I guess when you're talking about paths, the path we was on wasn't no good. The path that we may be going on, we're not sure. Only difference is with a private entity, it takes a lot to kind of combat and challenge them. And you know, the county ain't no better. Through all the years that we've been fighting for water designation and restoration of streams, the county fought us every step of the way. They wasn't for us. They was in the meeting saying no. Not one time the county said, we agree with these guys. So even if the county take over, it's not like we can kind of kick back and kick up your feet and you just watch TV now. Yeah? You got to stay vigilant, yeah? The only difference is because they're bound by law, which hopefully they're bound by law. That's what the lawyer doesn't do with. You know, we make the noise, they enforce them. But, you know, at least in that sense, maybe we have a little bit more bite to when we're dealing with them. But for sure, we're not gonna let them make all the decisions. The county ain't gonna make the decisions without us. The reason why the county was able to get these, the opportunity to probably acquire this system is because of all the years of hard-fought battles that we had to go through. Because they never give a rip about us at first. Yeah. I gotta say this, and you from the other side, I'm not saying nothing, but for you Lahaina folks, and Neil Hannes, who sit on the commission, he said it too. One day I was riding in the car when he was taking me to some place, and he was like, bruh, Lahaina is different. When you guys come out, it's not like other places. When you guys come out, you're not coming with 10 people, 20 people. In fact, the first meeting we had on Maui with the Water Commission after the water, having to deal with all that mess that the governor put together, we told them, you better get one big venue. And they never. I think the venue could hold, what, 200 something?
Yeah,
We probably had like 500 people. They must have. And when we went to Oahu to testify, it was like, okay, we're going to Oahu, we're going into that meeting room. We get to the meeting room, I look, wow, we're going to get all 20 people inside here. They don't know Lahaina. When we come, the best thing about it is we don't talk any kind. Yeah. Everybody who speaks is highly educated, communicate unbelievably well. We get Kanoe and Ses folks who bring down the emerging kids. Bruh, they go first, no sense we talk. You get one third grader saying things that will make you like, what? It's done deal. White pants, kick back, they got it. And I watched Neil Hannes on the commission cry because he said how far we came as a people to come to this point where the level of communication, organization is beyond light years. And these kids saying things that I should learn at 53. You know, third grader saying things I was like, wait, I never know that. Wow. And they go and speak before senators. They go to Oahu and they're at the state. And they speak and they're not scared. They stand straight. I go there, I said kind of like, okay, here we go. Right? You gotta amp yourself up, they're getting ready for a football game or something. These kids walk up and they let them out. I remember at a meeting on Oahu, I was like one of the first to go. I went to the back of the room and I just watched the show. Kick back, and I enjoyed every single part of that meeting. Nothing. The commission wasn't ready for this. I just didn't enjoy the show. And I realized, yeah, we did come far. But we never come far enough yet. Because even though we pull out hundreds, we should be pulling out thousands at these meetings. Because affect everybody, not just West Maui, you know. West Maui, just because we got a lot of things done, doesn't mean that we are necessarily the earth shakers. We saw what Makakoa was doing. We saw what the folks in Kenai was doing. We went to Kenai. We was checking out what you guys doing, because they was gaining some success. Was slow. Simi Waikapura, what you guys doing? Then we came back, and Hokuao from Navaiaha, he said it. He said it. He said, "Bro, how you guys pull out that kind of people to come to your meetings? Hear all and what we can do, and how we speak." And I said, "Bro, well, we watch you guys and we learn from you guys, but then we organize it. But hey, what's our favorite football team in Lahaina? Lahaina Luna. What school everybody went to Lahaina? Lahaina Luna. Everything. We're so tight as a community. Yeah. It's easy for bring people together as long as you let them know what's going on. Right? So next time, there is more battles to come. Instead of 400 or 500, next time I'll see 1,000. Do your homework. Come up and speak. These guys are gonna have to stay 2 days and sit in those chairs and listen to everybody. They only give you 3 minutes, but they're gonna need 2 days to listen to everybody's 3 minutes.
I would like to say, getting back to Maui Land and Pine, there was a monumental event that happened. We've commercialized our water for far too long. And there was a day when the CEO of Maui Land and Pine said, we're no longer going to water the golf course. We're going to put the water back in the stream to give the people use of the water. That was a monumental thing from a CEO of Maui Land and Pine to make a drastic decision when their economy is based on the operations of places like this. That was a paradigm shift. That was someone representing the people, not an LLC or some commercial operation. And so that opened the door for the MOU between the county and Maui Land and Pine. Right now, I think it's, what is it, Kai? 75% of the water in West Maui? 77% of the water in West Maui is commercially controlled. We have to flip that coin. And this is the beginning of that happening. This is big corporations understanding their responsibility to community. And so I commend Maui Land and Pine for taking a bold step to allow the conversation and the discussion for MOU to become possible. And hopefully other corporations, whether they be Kanapali or any place else, begins to recognize how important this community is. Because you know why? If you go to Canoe Beach, the grass is dry. You step right over the bridge, Hanako'o Stream, and everything from there, throughout Kanapali, is green, 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 green. Why is that? That has to change. And if it's starting from north, that change is starting to happen, then that's a good thing. But we have to stay engaged. We have to be maka'ala. We have to watch what's going on. We have to make sure we participate, just like you guys are participating tonight, and how important that role and responsibility becomes to the success of our community, our home, the place that we love, which is really rich in tradition. Thank God for Lāhainā. 1831. At one time, it was the only school with a Hawaiian alma mater. When you talk about tradition, we are rooted in tradition, but we're losing. The traditions that Lahainā once had no longer exist. Because why? We lack engagement. We got to get re-engaged. Like our tutus were engaged. Like our parents were engaged. Everybody wanted to make sure their kids went to Lahainā. You know, I have twin girls. Both of them are attending Kamehameha School. Right after the fire, one of my daughters came and said, "Dad, I don't want to go to Kamehameha anymore. I want to go to Lahainā." And in my mind, I was thinking, hell no. I invested everything I had to give you a good education. And I said, if you want to go to Lahainā, you better give me a good reason. But you know, she wrote a letter. She wrote a letter. When I read that letter, I couldn't tell her no. But I understood what that meant to her. What that meant was she loved the tradition. She loved everything about Lahaina and its people and its place. And I respect her for that. That was huge. But what that comes with, I told her, comes with responsibility. When I ask you to go to the taro patch, you have to come and help. Because right now you don't understand. But when you come to get older like us, you can understand the responsibility of what that means and what you would learn and what you have to do to stay in there and protect and fight for this community. That's really important. Thank you.
Archie.
Right.
Hey, you know, we also got to acknowledge the folks in Honokohau
Yo.
who in twist the arm of Maui Land and Pine, and there was like, okay, I give it to you. Right? Hey, get plenty of people here, families that was part of this from the very beginning. It wasn't just a few people, it was a lot of people. With Kaipo folks, the folks from Honokohau, Palakikos, I mean, there's a lot of people who is involved and a lot of leaders leading the way, steering this cause. And If you need to know and you need to find these people to learn, if they're out there. They're out there, go look them up, figure it out, and then we can twist some more arms.
I agree. I think the one thing I'll add is that, no government or corporation will ever save us. They never have. It's the power of the people and the power for us to organize and unite. It is what motivates, the the president of the United States didn't stop the bombing of Kaho'olawe. It was the people, the voice of the people, and the movement and organizing of people. It wasn't, like Uncle said, that the MLP didn't wake up one day and say, let's just sell this back to the county. It was putting pressure, constant pressure on them. And everything that the government has been doing lately is on behalf or motivated by public pressure from the people. And so, it may be a step in the right direction, but it is up to us to be maka'ala and to continue to hold them accountable and to continue to put that pressure on them to do what is right. Because the worst case scenario is that they just take the place of Maui Land and Pine and continue to service the same people with the same amount of water that they have been doing, and then nothing changes, right? And so it's just we cannot expect that anybody else will come to save us. It always has been ourselves that save each other, and we fight for each other, like Uncle Kai said too. And so that's just what we have to remember, that it is all of us together, and that's the only way things will change.
Just real quick, one tactic. The golf course. I get on call, and usually they go find one Hawaiian, because one Hawaiian can talk to one Hawaiian much better. Gotta be aware of those buggers. Yeah? Because we tend to listen to each other, even when wrong. Anyway, I get on call for Meet at Calais. One of the big wigs from the golf course, a Japan company, yeah?
TY.
Was that it?
TY.
Yeah, TY. The guy flying in from Japan, he talk to you. Huh? About what? About Honokohao, Maui Land and Pine, this and that. I was like, bro, I'm not from there. I gotta acknowledge that I'm not from there, and the people we need to talk to is to the folks from Honokohao. But I'm putting my 2 cents. But that kind of tactic, the first thing the guy told me, we employ this much people, we donate to this much organizations. If I had $1 for every group that came up to me and said that kind of stuff, I wouldn't be here, I'll be rich. They always try, they try to massage you to kind of get you over to the side, and they're gonna get on Hawaiian for sit with them, for kind of work you over. Be aware, get those buggers out there. And I sniff through the bullshit because we've been through them, seen them before, and so we're aware of those tactics. And we don't ever bow to these guys. Bob Marley, you seen Bob Marley? I love that guy. He said, I don't come to bow, I come to conquer.
All right, for time's sake, I want to just open it up to the crowd here and see if anybody has a question for any of these three about anything relevant to the topic that we're talking about. And if not, I get plenty more questions. Sorry, I don't have a wireless microphone, but she said, do you think you would want to do a panel with MLP?
Guy. It's for Kai.
With the lawyers. Hey, when we go to meetings, we gotta come in front of these people. We get the team of lawyers from Kahuliao and stuff back in the back. Right, they're doing their lawyer stuff. You know what I mean? I said, looking at these, it's like, wow. Because how much of you guys sometimes come? A whole bunch of you guys, eh?
Oh, yeah, like 4 or 5.
And you know good about them? They always bring Manapua when they come. True, yeah?
And for cash.
Yeah, for cash, yeah. But, it's always good having their support, backing you up, right? Sometimes, we might go off for like one time I needed help because I was busy working. I needed help to get one testimony together, and so he was helping me out. And then when I got to the commission and it was my turn for talk, the commissioner, right before I got to talk, was talking about the salinity of the water, and that's something you guys should be learning. Our aquifers in Lahaina, the salinity level is so high, you'd be deadly afraid if you're gonna be able to stay here any longer. If we don't make that change, I'll tell you right now, the Honokoi aquifer is done. All salt. Yeah. We kind of getting to the point where we're gonna be in bad shape in the Lahaina aquifer. A lot of the golf courses, what they do, they rotate from this pumping this well, because once the thing turns salty, they go to the next well. And then they go to the river, and they rotating wells because it's all salt water already. They drill a well right at the base of the mountain. Guess what? Salt water. You think we okay? And that's the truth. But I forgot what I was saying already. The commission. The commissioner thought was funny for saying, well, at least you guys don't need salt you guys' food anymore. He on commissioner. So I get this testimony that helped me out with. It's a nice testimony. And my turn, I was like, I'm sorry guys. Thing went down and I had to go at him. Sometimes the local boy good for come up, you know. They gotta realize, you don't have to always be cordial. Cordial good because you can get your point across, but sometimes the local boy gotta come across too. To say something like that in the situation that we're in means he disconnected from what's really going on here. Because if somebody in your family is sick and they're ready for, I'm not gonna say something stupid about, oh, how come they sick? And yet, that's what he did. And I told him about, wow, you think it's funny, yeah? That we in this situation, but we're deadly afraid if my kid won't be able to live here, if we're going to have water for drink. The county already talking about desalination. My thoughts about desalination is a couple of things. You're going to get on byproduct, which is highly toxic, which is high, you got to put in someplace, which is salt. And the idea is, dilute, pollute, dilute, and I think, okay, whatever. And I was like, first of all, my idea of desalination is, if I go to the store and buy $100 worth of groceries, but I only get $5 in my pocket, I shouldn't be buying $100 worth of groceries. We cannot afford it. So desalination means we're living beyond the capacity of this place to sustain life. So now we're going to go into the environment, yeah? Take advantage and see how we can get water that way by creating one highly toxic substance that we're going to have to do something with. And the idea is to pump them back into the ocean. So is that the right cost? Is that the path we should take? And then it's game on as usual. I remember close to 20 years ago, we was getting data from the Kanaha wells up here in Kanaha Valley, right above Lāhainā. And the salinity, the chlorides, salt. The chloride levels was at 850 parts per million. I think federal levels that is considered still okay was 250 parts per million. That's how far above we was on. What was being pumped out was actually considered from the federal government as being toxic. And so this is the plan. Then take all of Kanaha River, pump them up into the treatment facility above Lāhainā High School, and then dilute the toxic water. Not toxic, like it's salty though, not good, but. And then all of a sudden, they get this extra sauce or more water now, because they're diluting the chloride levels, and they say, okay, we're open for business again. And then from that point, we had enough water, and we open up construction, building, go for it. And 20 years later, guess what? You know what they're looking for right now? Well, not a well. Because even the stream now looking maintain. And this is the Lahaina, we call it the Launiapoka aquifer, but which is this side of the island. That's the stuff that's going on. That's the stuff we learn throughout the years. And that's the stuff we're trying to get out to you folks. I build in houses, and I try mention to people, I know, me too. Everybody get their dream of white picket fence, swimming pools, and stuff like that, right? Guess what? I'm sorry if you get on swimming pool, but in the situation that we're in, having a swimming pool is super irresponsible. That even the county and these people try to make up. They're saying like, well, the swimming pool doesn't use that much water. Then we do the research, we find out a swimming pool of a certain size in a person's lot uses the same amount of water that the house uses for subsistence. So one house equals two now if you have a swimming pool. And we have 100 houses that do that. Guess what? We have 200 houses using that much water, even though we get 100 houses. Do the math. And right now in the build out, I see choked swimming pools. We didn't even learn. I hope you guys know about swimming pool because I'm sorry. You know you gotta backwash your swimming pool, right? You gotta backflush or backwash your swimming pools, clean them out. How much water you backwash? How much water you evaporate every day? It's almost 600 gallons a day. That's about what 600. Yeah, about how much a house uses a day.
That's the amount. 600 mg is what a normal house in Lahaina is allowed to use.
Oh.
But on the gentleman estates above in Oniapoko, for example, they are allotted 3,000 gallons per day. So 600 is only for county water delivery.
And so Aaron at Seaworm was doing a study, and before his study came out, he called me up. He said, I'm on Maui. I got some information for you. I want you to see it. So he said, don't tell anybody yet. I'm gonna put it out, but check it out. And what I noticed was, going back to vacation rentals, the vacation rentals, it wasn't occupied every day of the year, was using the most amount of water. The reason, and so he did it by Team K. He did this analysis and this study by Team K, and he showed occupied, he did it for a kind of, like, was all these gentleman states and stuff like that. But I hope I get the number right, but for like homeowner occupied was, I can't remember, maybe 1,000 gallons or so. Homeowner non-occupied was almost 3 times as much.
Yeah, about 10,000.
10,000. Yeah. So they want to keep their place lush and green, so when the tourists come, like hotels, they get this idea of paradise. Yeah. They also have swimming pools. So, and oh man, I get good friends who put it in swimming pools. Still love them. And I know ever gonna shit on nobody's dream, but we gotta be a little bit more mindful and wise to where we are. Because if my swimming pool gonna remove the ability of my unborn mo'opuna one day living here, me as a grandparent or kupuna later on, kupuna, someday, I never do my job. Because a kupuna is supposed to watch out for the next generation. So, again, that's kind of me cutting you guys out, but that's the actual reality of what's going on. That's the facts. You can look them up at the serum. They get all this stuff. And that's the stuff that in the video I felt we lacking. And that we need to get out and let you guys know about the process and what's going on. So that, when you go out, I get so back and I come work, so I turn on hot water and I burn my back for a good 20 minutes. My bad. But I saw my back. But so that's where we at. That's really where we at. And a golf course, they had to shut down because it was all salt water. And our water director, from his landscape, I don't want to say his name, told me that when Hawaii Water Service cut the irrigation water to the homes up in Kaulu Estates, right? So they cannot water the land because they cut the non-potable water that you cannot drink, but you can use for irrigation. He had people come in, divert from the drinking water over to his irrigation water so he can continue to irrigate his lawn. And that's our water director. So yeah, the county taking over could be a little bit better, but we still gotta slap them around when they're going off course.
All right, does anybody else have a question in the crowd?
What a continued push to the county government to increase the use of recycled water. We shouldn't be flushing toilets with water that we can drink. If we install infrastructure in the form of like a pump storage hydrogenation facility right above wastewater treatment plant.
R1,
You can make reservoirs used for firefighting, purple pipe everywhere. Now is the time to put infrastructure to do all that. Because we shouldn't really be flushing toilets with water that we can drink.
Yeah, so for anybody that didn't hear, he's asking about recycled water. So I'm gonna let the panelists handle that, the conversation about how we could be reusing water.
R1, R2.
Yeah, I'll just start with a little bit of backtracking of our history on water. No, Maui is like the center of plantation politics. We have water battles in East, West, and Central Maui, and it's more heavily concentrated than any other island. And that plantation legacy passes on to our politics and what we see now. And so Maui County is actually the worst in terms of management because of how embedded the plantation mindset and system is in our politics. And so I say that because the R1 water, and I wouldn't, it's not attributed to the current administration, but the former administration fought, they spent millions, $8 million fighting a lawsuit not to have R1 or recycled water used because they would rather use that, inject those waters back into our ocean and then cause algae blooms and damage the reef. So they paid millions of dollars to attorneys not from Hawaii to fight against community members who are concerned about the damage when you pump this water, instead of investing all of those attorneys' fees into infrastructure that could be reused. But now we're at a point where we have a water crisis, and only because the golf course no longer has water is this conversation coming up more and more, and what people have been saying for decades now, that we have to build the infrastructure. But the issue now is because the golf course doesn't have enough water to water their lawns, they want to build the infrastructure and then take the water from Lahaina town back and divert it north instead of having it being used for our parks and our fields and for our yards, or you folks. And so that's now, it's like insane to have to fight over doo-doo water, right? But that's a situation that we're in. And so we have heard directly from TY that they are in discussions with certain politicians that if they are elected, that the pipe for R1 water from Lahaina town will go towards north and to the golf course instead of to the town where it should stay. And so these are the type of political things that are happening behind the doors, and how pervasive plantation politics still is in our community. And so we just have to be aware of that. That's a situation. I 100% agree, but it's a matter of also where the R1 water will go and who it will benefit. And because there is a billionaire who is offering to pay for the entire R1 infrastructure, it is highly likely that he will have control over where that water goes, and it will not benefit the people.
Funny, yeah, because we've been fighting for water, but we've also been fighting for doo water, for R1 use. The Lahaina aquifer has a sustainable yield of about, well, I think the sustainable yield is wrong. They have to redo them because I think the sustainable yield was like 7 million gallons a day. I think we are operating around at 5 or so. So we at that point where you shouldn't build a house even though that's your property right up to the cliff in case the cliff fall down, right? And so that's the county's attitude towards water. Well, we get 7 million gallons, but we're using 5, so we can go a little bit more, right? That's the idea. And what we know is that from R1, I think we produce around 6 or so million gallons, give or take, a day of R1. Now all of our parks, school grounds, all this place use drinking water to irrigate. What we were saying was, let's use this R1 to irrigate those places. No, okay, do the water. Let me backtrack. R1 is almost drinkable, you guys. And in fact, the water director from here came from San Diego, who implemented the use of do the water that's in the municipal drinking water now. So they drink them. Okay, so we just one step, even though it's a big step, we're still one step away from being able to drink the do the water. That will never happen We're not going to allow that to happen. But if you think that 6 million gallons, even if we never use all 6 million gallons, we maybe use 3 million gallons of that and the rest going wherever. I know the results already putting in the infrastructure for this R1 water, free water. I mean, it's not free, but it's cheap water. And so what we're saying is, even though the commission does not have say over doodle water, I think it's a board of health or whatever.
Yeah.
We're saying we want the same standards that you guys use for drinking water to be utilized for R1 water as to the priority on who gets the use of this water first. Because the priority before was with Kuleana users and terra farmers and now so resorts and hotels, I think it was like last. But it's flipped. They get the water first. They get 77% of our water resource. And they use them until the thing turns salty. So the management of this source is no good, but now they're looking for the R1. What happens when they get R1 and they're not having to pump their wells for irrigation purposes? You think they're going to develop more with that extra water they carry? That's what they're going to do. So what we're saying is, first of all, the priority list, we should follow the same standards as drinking well. Our community should be getting this water first for our parks and whatever, even probably ag. Okay? And then maybe them last. Okay? If we're talking about desalinization, let's talk R1 then. Because that 6 million gallons of R1 water that is being produced every single day is that much less water we're pumping out of the ground. So what happens to aquifers? If we put the streams back in place like we did, we protected the groundwater through our designation battle that we had to go through. The components is in place to set us up for in future they're going to be bright. But we still get more to add to the component to make it even better. So why not, since we're producing that much R1 water a day, utilize them for our community? That's the stuff we gotta think about. What I always recognize is that government has the means, but the public has the will. We don't have the means, and the government lack the will. And so when community get together and we impose our will upon them to release the means in order to make these things happen, we hear talks. We've seen some plans what the county trying to do that. Maybe they're going to send water here and there back towards West Maui, R1 water, so that it can be utilized. But you get these other guys in the game who try to intercept. And so the protections for this R1 should be put in place to make sure that our community is first in line.
I just want to, since we're on the conversation of R1, if I think Kaulu touched on her feelings on the R1 going south, going north or south, but I would like to hear from both Uncle Kai and Uncle Archie what their feelings on where they think the R1 should go, because that is a conversation happening in the community, and I think as leaders of the white fight and people coming to get educated, we would love to hear their mana'o on if they think when that R1 becomes available, it should go north or if it should come down south to Lahaina town.
So in case anybody didn't catch the question, Jordan's asking Uncle Kai and Uncle Archie to give their opinion on where R1 should go, whether it should go north or south.
R1. R1 should definitely stay south. Belongs to the people. You know, they have all the resources right now. We're looking ways to generate resources. And this R1 is so important to the longevity so that we can make sure our aquifers become healthy, stay healthy. And so this R1 component is super, super important to sustainability in a community. I am totally against R1 going north. I'm 100% for R1 staying south in our community, supporting our homes so that long term, our aquifers can become healthy and we can re-tap into those resources. So, thank you.
A few years ago, at our Hawaiian Homes planning meeting, we was talking about R1 use on Hawaiian homes, maybe for parks and what you call that? Outside the road? Oh, not landscape, like the greenway, what you call that?
Or the middle, the strip.
No, no, well, yeah, I guess it's whatever. On the side of the road, they get all this green belt or whatever, and so we're trying to figure out how we can utilize R1 in a way that not gonna go to drinking, but we can do dual meter systems into the homes at Hawaiian homes to provide water for irrigation, which is the purple pipe, and then drinking water. Um, and was some good discussion. It was talking about how we can maybe pump water up to the reservoirs that they have up there by Hawaiian homes, maybe diluting somehow, and then taking away 2 million gallons, turning into 4 million gallons, and now we get way more than enough water that Hawaiian homes need, right? So what was interesting was a good idea, and we were pushing to have that implemented. And so the commissioner was like, yeah, that sounds good, the water commission. And then one of the one that started, I forget his name. One of the commissioners was like, I would think it's very unfair that Hawaiian homes will have the foresight and implement these types of usage of R1 to be more efficient and maximize the water usage, while the rest of Lahaina go on using drinking water. Because R1 is not cherished. You know what I mean? It's not like, okay, we got R1 and yes, good job. Because it's unfair that the hotels get to have the prime water. It's unfair that all these other people get to have the prime water. Well, Hawaiian Home said, you know what? We're going to be efficient. We're going to be good stewards, and we're going to do the right thing. So the commission said, you know what? We should have all of Lahaina start working on using R1. And then right there, my mindset went shift because I was like this. Who said we're going to give the hotels R1? They took everything. We're going to take this water. But then I realized, like what the commissioner said, oh, we left them with the prime water. Wait. Okay, let's rethink this. So now my thought was, if the resorts of the private purveyors control 77% of our water resources, it's not necessarily, not to give them all auto R1. That's to me, this is my thought, my opinion. Not to give them auto R1. But if you're the biggest user of our water resources year to year, you should be on R1. We as a community only use 23%. We're not the problem. The 77%, who utilizes that water? Resource, yeah. But the tourists get the benefit of using our prime water while we work on being more efficient and using R1, which is the right thing to do, but it's not fair. That's not right. You know, when you guys go Safeway, you guys go buy poke. That's the frozen poke they're shipping from, I don't know where they ship them in from. Yeah? Then I look at when you go to the hotels and the restaurants, I look, hey, these buggers get all our fresh fish. You know what? Give the frozen fish to the tourists. They don't know any better. Let us keep our fresh fish. That's kind of the same thing with the R1. They don't know any better. So, hey, how come we always made to have the best stuff? And I mean, I find lessons everywhere I can, and I don't. Had this Japanese boy from Japan. He paddled. I used to coach canoe, and he paddled for me. And we was talking about fish and produce that come from Japan. How come so good? And he laughed at me. He go like this. That's our third grade, fourth grade stuff. That's not our best stuff. I said, what you mean? Oh, when we export, that's not our best stuff. Then why? He told me, because we believe in our people. It's for our nation. The best should be for us. And we export the rest to the other people. How's that thinking? Talk about one mind flip. Us guys, we try for pleasure everybody else. We go eat the junk stuff. You can have the best. But over there, no, we keep the best because we like our nation and our people strong, healthy, and enjoy the fruits of their place and not give them away. But we twist it, we backwards. And when he said that to me, I was like, bro, of course, you cannot blame the fishermen too, because hold on, fucking restaurants give good price, eh? So I don't know how we compete with that, but think about that. It's on mind shift.
I would just add one thing, that another issue is that the water that the resort consumes is not enough to supply the R1 that they would need to be totally off of diverting stream water and pumping. So they want to take the water because they don't actually produce enough to make their own R1. So that's why they have to take from the town to send north. On the mic, on the mic.
Here comes a hard question, you guys.
I think it would be safe to say that people can take their own initiative at home with like using water conservative efforts, right? They get all the fancy toilet flushes, your shower heads, all those cool things. And then I picked up a few, some notes dropped while we were going through the night, and I heard like the Department of Health in one spectrum of the water situation. I heard seaworm. Seaworm is cultural resource, right? Cultural Water Commission of Water Resource Management. Well, you can tell I go to too many ABCs. And then there's also the PUC. I don't think we heard that mentioned tonight so much, but other regulating commissions that govern our water systems, Department of Water Supply, so on and so forth. Is there ways for people to tune in to those different commissions or websites, and that they could be better informed and also participate in advocacy? Is how would you do that? Is it just as simple as going on a website?
All the ABCs, all the ABCDs, MCs. First of all, I would say the CWRM, or the Water Commission, is the Commission on Water Resource Management, and they are the regulator of water in Hawaii, because the state has a constitutional duty to protect our waters in trust for future generations. That's a constitutional provision. And then counties, our Department of Water Supply, they are the purveyor or the deliverer of water. So they are regulated. They're supposed to be regulated by the Water Commission. And then you have the Department of Health, who manages the quality of the water, which is separate than the quantity and the actual regulation of it. And then, sticking with me, I hope, sorry. And then the PUC is the Public Utilities Commission. And that commission regulates utilities, so all utilities in Hawaii, whether it be electric, so HECO, MECO, they're all regulated to make sure that they aren't charging people more than they should, because we kind of still have monopolies in Hawaii. And so that just makes sure that they are not taking advantage of the people because they're the sole provider. But how that relates to water is the private utility companies such as Launiopoko Irrigation, Oloalu, all of those folks, Peter Martin's water companies, they are also all regulated under this commission to make sure that the rates they are charging to people are not higher than they should be and what is fair. And they also, cheaper, right? But they also charge the county, because they also deliver water to the county because they control the systems, right? So again, just a reminder, water is not, you cannot own water in Hawaii. It belongs to the people. But because of how our plantation systems developed irrigation and their ditches, which were most of the times built on our awai and our traditional systems, right? They can control the delivery. And so that's technically what they charge for and how they control it, even though they don't actually own the water. So the PUC makes sure that they're not charging more than they should be to deliver this water. And how people can get engaged is, yes, absolutely, they have these websites and they have meetings. They may be very boring and you may have to sit through hours, but they have agendas that they publish. They have regular meetings that they're required to hold. So if something motivates you to get engaged, I would say go on their website, check when they have their regular meetings, and then check the agendas. We do that to make sure that we are showing up when something for Lahaina comes up, because it's a hit or miss and you don't always get a heads up from the commission. So I would just say whatever interests you to go and get engaged in those meetings, regular meetings, and it's always good to just show up.
It's not It happens often to the commission is having an agenda about Lahaina and having them on Oahu. So you know, if you can get on to the website and maybe log in so that you can testify via Zoom, you don't have to necessarily be there. So you can do them that way. The one thing about the Department of Water Supply, the Maui Department of Water Supply is different from a lot of the different islands where, especially like Oahu, I think it's like 60-40, 70-30. I think like 70% of the water so, or is what's the
Yeah,
number?
they're like 70 to 80.
Yeah, so the public controls like 70% of the water on Oahu. Well, here, a lot of the plantation uppers was sitting on the board, and they worked to make sure that the water resource was always controlled by the private purveyors. So Lahaina is 77% to 20%. Maui total, I think it's like 80% to 20% where private purveyors control the water on Maui. On Oahu is 70-30. Big Island maybe 60-40, whatever. So you can see how we were set up not to be in control or have a fair share at this water. And that all of this water was for profits. So we need to restructure probably our Department of Water Supply as well, and make sure that we can get more of an equitable use of water for everybody, and not like how it is today.
Real quick, can you just share a couple of like resources to follow along with if they want to get engaged, like instead of going to the website? There's people already sharing.
You need to monitor the water. Like right now, you can monitor Kaulu Luʻuwai.
Yeah, of
Data.
course. Yeah, there are dashboards where you can monitor actually and part of the recovery
In-stream
efforts.
flow
Yeah, and you can monitor in-stream flow standards, which are the minimum amount of water that's supposed to be in the streams at all time. So you can see is the water that is being diverted before it enters a diversion is the same amount as when it exits Makai of the diversion, and what is that difference, which will tell you how much water they're actually taking. And sometimes the Honokohau folks know this too well, that a lot of times the Hawaii Water Service would take way more than what they should be taking, and then that minimum stream flow standard is not there, which means that they are diverting illegally. So you can monitor dashboards. People are working on, Carolyn folks are working on with the White Coalition to make sure that all of this data is publicly accessible. So I would stay tuned for that. I'd say you can follow Instagram accounts. You got Lahaina Strong is really active in water stuff. You have Sierra Club of Hawaii, Earth Justice. They are attorneys. They are constantly updating their website on the most recent issues and try to break down like legal issues for folks. There are all kind of resources out there on social media, especially has been a really great way to get this information across. If you have limited time, just search for those resources where you can get bite-sized information.
So it also takes us looking at the streams. When I look at the stream and look at the water, at the rocks, I can tell when the thing low. Yeah, I don't really need one gauge, but the gauge is really helpful because 1 year West Maui land was diverting all of Oluwalu, even though we had the IFS, and we caught them. It's based because we saw the stream. They never see the gauges, and so we caught them. And so they had a $500,000 fine. We was like, yes. And the commission said, okay, you need to put in $500,000 of infrastructure updating your reservoir so you can hold the water better. I was like, that's not on fine. You just would help them out. So you say, yeah, we'll make them so that you can hold more water and last. It's like, wait, how is that a fine? And that's what the commission did. So, again, always going to come back to people. Don't believe that the commission and the county and everybody else is going to do the right thing. Because when we found Oluwalu and they offered the $500,000, everybody was high fine until they came up with what they needed to do. Update your infrastructure so that you can hold water better and not take more water from the river. I don't know what the hell was that. That was crazy.
Yeah, it's like if you were to get a car fine and then the police said, "Oh, here's the fine. Go put the money back into doing whatever you have to do that got you the fine." Right? They don't allow that now, so it's kind of it's pilau that they were allowed to do that. And actually, that the same situation happened in Honokohau, but because of the example and the lessons from Olowalu, the community fought to make sure that MLP and Hawaii Water Service couldn't apply those fines to something that they should be doing anyway, which is investing in their infrastructure. And they had to apply all of those fines to other things that were actual community benefits. So it really was for the community to push and make sure that the commission didn't fall for the same tricks again, because that's what they were, Hawaii Water Service and MLP were offering at the beginning, was we can use this money to invest in our system, right? But they should be doing that anyway, and the fine shouldn't be used for that.
Real quick, you know what I'd like to add is we all have a kuleana. When you drive to West Maui, I always look at Kahoma Stream. When I drive over that bridge, I look down. Is the water running? Is the water running from Mauka to Makai? If it ain't, I call Kai. If Kai sees it before me, he calls me. Then we go and investigate. Because the Opu, the Opai, they do not have a voice. We are their voice. We are their voice to make sure that we're protecting them. Okumihame, I see that stream always running. Aluwalu, if you look really good, you can see that stream is running. But it's real important for us to take on the kuleana of when you see it not running. Make the phone call. Call the people that know enough to call the right people to make sure there's some kind of investigation so that we can make sure that that never happens. We've experienced that. Remember, Kai? Peter Martin, one of his partners, went up there, shut the gate, Kahoma Stream went dry. We went up there, we looked, and we saw hundreds of dead old. We called the media. Kamehameha Schools was like, oh, please don't do that, we'll make sure. But you know what? It took the act of us informing the news to come and investigate for them to be like, that'll never happen again. We have to make sure things like this don't happen. So however you decide to get involved, it's just awareness. Looking and making sure that every day that you drive on that bypass, you look down and that water's running, it's okay. It's when you see that water isn't running when it becomes a problem. That's the first step to getting involved.
I think we lost about 75% of the stream life when they shut their water that one time. And they did it twice. After all that years, we lost 75% of the aquatic life.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, and this is not an attempt to get people to vote for me, but is everybody registered to vote? Because if you, serious time. Look at what we have to go through just to educate our community so that they can be advocates down the line. Yeah, we gotta go on the side, we gotta go sign weight, we gotta get everybody engaged, we gotta educate them. Everybody gotta show up to all these CWARM meetings, hundreds of people, and still sometimes it doesn't go in our favor. We put one person in that leadership seat that saves the work for all of us, the right person. And if you guys don't know who to vote for this time around, ask them, where do you want the R1 water to go? You guys heard it here first. If they say north, you already know who you gotta go, right? There are some people scary as hell that is running for office right now, and they like that thing going north. So just ask the question next time. If you don't know who to vote for, you want the water to go north or south, that'll give you that answer. But get registered, okay? You don't have to vote for me, but get registered so your voice and your votes count.
Thank you.
Please vote for Koelu. Okay, so I'm going to ask one last question for our panelists and allow them to give their closing remarks. But, when we talk about resource protection, a lot of other conversations come into the mix because as Hawaiians, we kind of look at things holistically, right? Because everything is related. When, like Uncle Archie said, when the vein is cut off, it can lead to so many other failures, right? So when we talk about resource protection, it also comes up land management, demilitarization, and even sovereignty. And that can, as the conversation starts to escalate, people can get scared and shy away from that because then they start to see it as polarizing, like Hawaiians for themselves kind of thing. But can you guys explain how the Hawaiian mentality of how we can manage this place, manage resources, and just live live as a Hawaiian, how that benefits everybody, whether you have Hawaiian blood or not.
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter if you have Hawaiian blood or not. What matters is you live in a place that you fall in love with. And you don't try and change it. You try to become part of this place. And when that happens, you begin to have a deeper understanding and a deeper connection to place. And you begin to look around and understand what is really important. Hawaiian is in the heart. The love of the land, the love of the people. And you put the land before yourself. That's when you know you're connected to place. That's when you know you have a heart of a Hawaiian. That's when you know you're in touch and in tune with the land, with the island, with the people, with the place. And so I try to practice that every day and try and live by those standards every single day. I'm going to tell you guys something that is going to be very, very disturbing. Something that we all got to pay attention to. So I've been sitting on Hokulea now for 40 years. In 2014, we started the Malama Honua voyage, saving Mother Earth. 2017, we sailed to Swains Island. Island was inhabited for 500 years. On Hokulea, we took the last people off that island. That island is no longer existing. That island is sunk. Hokulea is going to Micronesia. So we sent a team to Micronesia 3 weeks ago. El Nino, you guys know El Nino is coming, right? What they saw in Micronesia was so disturbing. The water temperatures were so hot. All the menpachi, all the reef fish, thousands and thousands and thousands of reef fish dead in the lagoon by the temperature of our ocean rising. If you look on a windy and you look at the globs of warm water that's moving, it's moving towards us. Can you imagine if this warm water hit Hawaii, started killing all of our reef, killing all of our reef fish? The possibility of that happening is a harsh reality, that this can happen within the next year. So more importantly, we have to fight for every little stream and river to reopen, reconnect from the mountain to the sea. Because when the cold water hits the reef, it provides a temperature for spawning to happen. Not bleaching. Bleaching is when the warm water happens. I'm going to leave you guys with this. It's beyond what we can imagine. And I'm asking you all to pay attention to all of these climate changes that are happening, because they're real. And they are going to affect us in a way that we may not be prepared for. Hokulea's mission today is to be a scientist on this canoe, observing in the most purest fashion weather changing for the worse. We could recognize weather 20 years ago. In the last 10 years, all of our voyages to Tahiti and back, we see weather patterns we are not familiar with. We no longer understand. We have to relearn those languages of weather that we once knew. That's how dangerous this is. That's how dangerous this planet is. And I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you.
You gonna end on that? She gonna sing her song from the B side of your CD? If you look at the latitude of Hawaii, it's like roughly like 19, 20 degrees. Yeah, and if you
21
look right
degrees
around the
north.
planet,
41 degrees.
21 degrees.
North.
I got corrected. And if you look at that latitude right around the Earth, it's probably the most driest, hottest desert places on the planet. And yet, we, for some reason, some blessing, have rainforests, and we have water, and we have one place that can sustain life. So you gotta cherish that, because in other places of the earth at this latitude, life is almost impossible. So, how, I guess only God knows, I guess, how that can happen, but what was the closing? What was the question?
Right?
The appointment threw me off.
How it is good for Hawaiians is good for Hawaiians. Or that mentality.
How is what? Is Hawaiians what?
How it is good for Hawaii is good for Hawaii.
Oh,
And
well, my father Hawaiian, and my mother come from San Diego, California. She, she's of Czech ancestry, so I'm a Hapa. But my mother came here when she was 18 and never go back. And I noticed, like, I don't know if because she married a Hawaiian and she had Hawaiian kids, but she didn't allow herself to become a part of the place. She's not giving up who she was and how she was raised or that, but she allowed herself to become part of the place. And so, we see a lot of times when people come here, they're trying to change the place to their liking or like where they're from. And that's not this place. If you came here for the reason of enjoying what we have, then you should be part of continue to protect and continue this way of life. But during kingdom time, a lot of time when we talk about sovereignty and stuff like that, and people get kind of sketched out, and it's, oh no, these Hawaiians, they like their own independence and they're gonna leave us out. Guess what? In the kingdom, we had plenty Haole, plenty Japanese, plenty Chinese. We had plenty people here that was citizens, yeah, of the kingdom, and not just like naturalized, but a lot of them was born here. So they Hawaiian in the sense of nationality, and a lot of them, even during the overthrow, plenty of Haole was telling the queen, you should shoot these guys because they're going to change things and you're going to lose control of this place, because they already knew what was happening. And this was a lot of her advisors who were, what's that word? Dedicated to the...
Oh, loyalists?
Loyal. They were loyal to their place and their home and their kingdom. Nowadays, you see the no kings. Okay, yeah, no kings, but hey, wasn't constitutional monarchy back then, so you could vote. You know what I mean? After it became a title, but hey, anyway, so it was never like just us and nobody else. Yeah, that whole idea of them and us came during plantation. You had the Japanese camp, you had the Portuguese camp, you had the Filipino camp. They're putting everybody segregated in different camps, when before that, we was all together. You know what they call Puamana? Haole camp. But that was for the bosses. The plantation bosses used to live there. So it was a little bit different. They had the perks. Yeah. So, not had camps where there's sometimes mixed, but a lot of times there was camps there where people were put into their own place. Because you know what happened? When you put everybody together, we get the pidgin language. Right? We come together and we create things that is beautiful. I remember going to testify and I was like, okay, I gotta talk good English. And I can. I try and I don't sound too good. So I was told by one of my teachers when I was at the university, yeah, I went to UH, I went to school. But he told me, the way you speak, you get plenty of power. You don't have to sound or use correct English. Because in our language, we're not monotone, yeah? We carry plenty spirit in how we talk, yeah? I'm not like, hey, Archie, how you? What locals do? Archie, how you, bro? Right? So, no ever, so it's not for being embarrassed about that. And then that, at the same time, that language is a melding of people who came together. The majority of the words is English, right? But we get all kind of Hawaiian, Japanese, all kind of Filipino words all mixed up. That's why we talk all of this. But no fear when somebody talk about independence or sovereignty and stuff like that. Because you know what? Women outlaw slavery before the United States and most of the world in our kingdom. Yeah, we believe in equal rights for all. We believe in women's suffrage where women can vote before most kingdoms around places around the world. Because that is a cultural thing. Women hold one place of importance just like men and just like Mahu. Yeah. I think if we embrace that, and then we come to a place where when the government can truly represent the people and not the plantations and like on the video, we don't know we're stuck in a plantation system, you know. We are. Everything we get comes on matching. Who own matching? Alexander and Baldwin? Sound familiar? Baldwin High School? Maybe we should change the name. Nah. I like Baldwin, yes. But if you think about it, like, we will embrace everybody. My father was married and Holly girl from California, had us, and had a good family, good life, was able to teach us all that we know today. And, you know, for me, it's like, because I catch cracks from both sides there sometime when I was growing up. Hey, you Howley. Hey, why you don't belong here? You know what I mean? And plenty of us had to deal with that. Yeah, even from our own cousins, they're like, oh, these brothers. But when you get older and they realize, oh, bro, sorry, we kind of talk stupid to you. But yeah, we need to overcome all of this fear of the possibilities of what could happen that would actually, I think, benefit all of us here way better than the system we get now.
I think totally. It always comes back. The point is so on. It always comes back to sovereignty for me also, because you're talking about not only controlling our resources once again, and really the ability to control our political and economic system that has power over our resources, whether we admit it or not. That is our reality. We still live in a plantation system. You know, the hotels and the tourist industry are just a modern day plantation where they rely on cheap immigrant labor with no upward mobility and still continue to extract and export resources for the benefit and luxury of others. That is our reality. And we don't talk about that enough because everyone just wants to, you know, another plantation mentality is that you just stay in your lane, you just keep quiet and you keep your head down and work hard. And that's what they have trained generations of us to do. You know, so many of us come from plantation background, and that is a legacy and a mentality that is passed down, and not to speak out. But sovereignty really is our only way out. And sovereignty really is just about taking back control for the benefit of our people and not for the benefit of corporations and people who don't live in Hawaii and care about Hawaii. You know, like it's a matter of whether you love Hawaii for the community and the culture and not what you can benefit from Hawaii. A lot of people love Hawaii because they can come here and make money and steal our resources and extract it to benefit other people. But for me, that is not an option. but also it's not an option for me to move away, and so that is sovereignty is the only way we can control our housing prices. That's the only way we can control who buys and sells our land and who owns our land and controls our resources. And so that is really what it comes down to, and it's not a scary concept. The only reason it's scary is because people who are scared of instability for what the American system provides for them and how they benefit from living in Hawaii because of its attachment to America is who is concerned about sovereignty. But if you love Hawaii deeply and you care about this place, and this is the only place you envision yourself living and your children living, sovereignty is really our only option to move forward in our new climate reality. And so I really offer that for folks to think about. How much do you love Hawaii? Are you willing to sacrifice the comforts and the luxuries that we benefit from being attached to the United States? But also look at the benefits of what we can have and the hope that we can have once we detach from them because of all of the things that they come with and burden us on. For example, military leases and all the negatives we get from that. So it's really about thinking, how much do we love Hawaii and how much are we willing to sacrifice for a better future for not only ourselves, but for the generations to come.
One last one. One more mind shift. Like my Japanese friend teach me, I had my Samoan friend. He told me, when the church came to Samoa, they was going to make the Samoans Christian. But what the Samoans did was make the church Samoan. Different way of thinking.
All right, so that concludes our panel. I want to mahalo everybody for showing up, and especially I want to mahalo our panelists for this great conversation and all the manaho that they shared. And this is just the beginning. A lot of people showed up to this, and we're so grateful. But we got to continue these conversations. We got to continue the education. And next time we have one of these, bring 5 friends, because that's how we're going to continue the momentum and continue to create the support for our kalu farmers and create the support for our aina so that we can move forward towards a sustainable future. But mahalo nui for showing up, and drive home safe.
Tell your friend the food is ono. Mahalo to all the farmers and the people who prepared the food.
Actually, yeah, one last thing. That was a big part of this event was the food, because this type of food is only possible when we have enough water in the streams, right? The lau, the kalo, everything that we got to enjoy tonight, not everything, but most of what we got to enjoy tonight is only possible if the water is in the stream. So if you thought the food was ono and you want to continue eating like that, then these conversations are important to be had. Yeah.